Hey everyone, Albert Lee with Clever Key Consulting Group. And we have another amazing opportunity to talk with my good friend, Dr. Andy Garrett, in our ongoing video series focused on how to make improvements within ourselves in the workplace. Today, we're talking about something that's really important to me as a leader, and that's how we can become better leaders. Join us as we explore the ideas of creating authentic leadership and fostering better working environments for our employees. Whether you're an executive or an individual contributor with aspirations to become a leader, we hope that you get a lot of value out of this. Now, enjoy the video. Hi, Dr. Garrett. Thank you so much for spending time with us again in our ongoing video series designed to help us improve in the workplace. Can you remind us again a little bit about who you are?
Absolutely. So Dr. Andy Garrett, I'm a licensed clinical psychologist who has a private practice. We are in the Fashion Island area of Newport Beach, and I've had a private practice or been involved in private practice for over a decade, doing at this point mostly life coaching with an expertise in helping people to establish authentic identity, purpose, and community. And so, working with business leaders a lot of times to really establish holistic authenticity so that they lead from the best versions of themselves in all areas of life.
Great. Today, I want to talk to you about something that's really dear to me as a leader. A lot of leaders either think or believe they are good leaders, but how do we truly know if they're a good leader or not? Can you talk to us about that today?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question, and I look forward to getting into some really clear practical ideas and ways to really define and know when you're leading really effectively.
Good. So in general, what are your thoughts on leadership?
Yeah, well, I think all great leadership really starts with self-leadership. And so I think that might be counterintuitive, but it really, you need to start from a place of understanding who you are, understanding what's important to you, and really creating, I think when you come from a place of inner clarity and inner harmony on the way that you want to lead, the impact that you want to have on the people that you're leading, it has a really profound effect, right? You understand the types of virtues or ethics that you want to make a commitment to. It creates authenticity, right? And really, if you get to the heart of what authenticity is, it is about inner harmony, but it's about taking that inner clarity and inner harmony and then bringing that into your relationships and your work, so that when you are interacting with people, they feel that clarity, they feel that consistency, right? And trust really comes from a place of predictability. When you know that you can expect someone to kind of be consistent in the way they handle things, they can consistently be fair or kind or grateful or whatever that is. It's amazing how that allows people to, it removes ambiguity and uncertainty, and it allows people to really know, all right, this is what's expected of me. I know that the leader is going to hold him or herself accountable to that same standard, right? And because they feel so clear in who they are and their vision and where they're going, it makes me feel secure and makes me feel safe to then explore, who I am and to do my absolute best work in it's not the shadow, in the light, right, of their effective leadership.
Dr. Garrett, I heard the word authenticity. Can you elaborate or define authenticity as it relates to what we're going to be talking about?
Absolutely. Authenticity, as I had mentioned the words, it's really about having inner clarity, inner harmony, and kind of inner freedom, where you know what your values are, you know what's most important to you, and you're lining up your day-to-day actions, you're lining up your relationships. There's that consistency, right? Where you are, the story that you want to tell about yourself is consistent with who you actually are. And so authenticity is about, the truest expression of yourself. It's about being, genuine. There's this notion of like honesty and vulnerability as being, what authenticity is about. And I do think that is an important aspect, but true authenticity is so much deeper than that. It's about the ability to really have the self-awareness to understand what your motivation is, what the impact, the purpose that you have in the work that you do and your relationships, and then the ability to consistently bring that forward and to self-regulate, right? I think it's an important part of authenticity too, is to receive feedback and be open to recognizing when you're off course, to have a healthy sense of self. I think when you really are, I've spent a lot of time really trying to define authenticity, and I interviewed about 100 people, friends, colleagues, mentors, teachers, spent a lot of time reading to really say, when you are authentic, please describe me. What is that like? What does that feel like? And in doing that, I saw these really consistent patterns emerge that defined authenticity. And people consistently said it was who I was when I felt free of judgment. It was who I was when I really felt like I was in flow, when I was doing my best work, when I felt most creative and most innovative. And so it really helped me to be able to then deconstruct. All right, psychologically, these are the constructs, or these are the things that go with authenticity that make it. And there's really, I believe, 3 pillars that make up authenticity, that when you light up these 3 pillars, authenticity absolutely elevates, and you not only will elevate yourself and your own experience of life, but you elevate everybody around you. And that's having absolute clarity on your core values, but not just knowing your core values, but knowing how to bring that into your day-to-day life, knowing how to bring that into, as I said, the decisions that you make, the people that you hire, the clients that you choose to do business with, so that there's that consistency with that. It's about having clear intrinsic motivation so that you're doing things that most align with your passion and purpose. And then it's about understanding your virtues and character strengths, right? What are the character strengths that are most important to you and that you really want to define your character? And what is the ethics? It's easy in inauthenticity to get caught in what I call situational ethics, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit more going forward. But when you make a commitment to say, this is who I'm going to be, and these are the values, the virtues that I'm going to stay consistent with, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to have integrity, even if I'm dealing with a situation that's frustrating or someone that's not being respectful to me, I'm going to make a commitment to being this way consistently, because that's who I want to be. That's my authentic, true self.
Dr. Garrett, how does this differ from the contemporary understanding of the word authentic or authenticity?
Yeah, this word authentic has certainly become very popular over the last decade, probably even longer, past 2 decades. So much so that it gets used, overused, misapplied. And so I notice sometimes even when I bring this word up, I think most people believe that they're being authentic. And I think where that stems from is that the word most commonly gets defined or used in any time that you're being honest, vulnerable, or transparent. And as I said before, I do think those are important elements of authenticity, but I think it's also very possible to be vulnerable and inauthentic at the same time, right? In fact, we see in social media a lot, people using what we call curated vulnerability. There's a shot I saw recently of a woman that it's like you're eating breakfast with her in the morning and she's being vulnerable and open, but her hair and makeup is all done, right? It's clear she's in a studio. And so there's a sense of people kind of faking vulnerability in order to create connection or relationship, or using it in sometimes kind of a manipulative way. And I think you can certainly be honest. I hear sometimes people saying they're being authentic when they are being just rude or offensive, right? I'm just really blunt and that's who I am. So if you don't like it, too bad. That doesn't reflect, to me, that feels reactionary, okay, right? And it doesn't feel like that's the truest expression of yourself. It seems to stem oftentimes out of a place of insecurity, out of a place of anger. And as I said, I think the best way to really define authenticity is that when you feel that inner clarity, that inner harmony, and you really know when you're showing up with clarity on who you want to be and how you want to show up, there's an inner peace that you feel with that. And so it's a really clear feeling and understanding that was consistently described by people when they were being authentic. And I just don't think when you are offending other people, not that you can't offend other people, but when you're blatantly offending someone, I think that's not really authentic. And then I also hear authenticity sometimes used to promote what we call fixed mindset, that this is just how I am and you got to accept it. Where I do think authenticity, it assumes kind of this sense of like a desire to keep getting better, right? If you're trying to be the truest expression of yourself, I think that's usually a concept that's evolving, and you're trying to consistently be aware of the impact you have on people and constantly have a good and positive impact on people.
Great, thanks, Dr. Garrett. Now, let's talk about how this could apply to leadership. Can you talk to us about how you would define authentic leadership
Yeah, absolutely. With authentic leadership, again, because you know what's important to you, because you have clearly defined your values, and your values really represent what's most important to you. It's what you stand for. It's what you're all about. When you are in alignment with your values, it's when you tend to feel most, you have integrity, you feel alive and vibrant, and when you feel out of alignment with it, you tend to feel distressed, you tend to feel just out of alignment, you tend to feel irritable, and you're more likely to argue and create chaos. Okay. And so when you are being authentic as a leader, people understand you're being open about what's important to you, right? So there's real clarity of expectations. There's clarity on, hey, this is what I'm about, and I'm not hiding anything. I'm not trying, there's no ulterior motives here. And authenticity, for sure, as a leader, and just in general, has an understanding that we have a social responsibility to do social good, right? And so it's about placing, people over profits. Not that profits aren't important, right? But we understand that probably the best way to get profits is by creating an awesome culture, a place where people feel valued, people feel appreciated, right? You know that you genuinely care about how these people are doing, you care about their well-being, and you create an environment, right, that allows people to ideally thrive, not just in the business world, but interpersonally and from a psychological standpoint. And so authentic leadership certainly does admit mistakes. There's that, the idea of honesty and vulnerability, that openness. And when a leader is willing to acknowledge they've made a mistake and they've been vulnerable, it's really amazing how that creates the freedom for the employees then to really, acknowledge when they're off course and when they've made a mistake, which enhances growth, right? Makes people improve a lot quicker when everybody's willing and readily able to acknowledge what we can do better. Authentic leadership is about really, again, being, I think, virtuous, but doing it not in a manipulative way, right? Where it's like, hey, I'm going to be kind, but in return, I expect you to put in extra hours.
Understand.
So it's about like, hey, I want to be kind because that's genuinely who I am, and it's the impact I want to have on you. And so there's that real clarity of, so there's that real clarity of, who you are, the commitment to the person that you're going to be, that again is not situational. Situational ethics, as a quick little statement on that, I've got 2 young kids. I've got a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. And their sense of right and wrong is so dependent upon what the other one does, right? But you gave, Avery, you gave my sister, 2 drinks. Why did I only get 1? And so, they won't do anything unless it's completely fair. And if, one person's being a brat to the other, then the other one is, kicking and hitting or something like that. And so this sense of, their right and wrong is completely contingent upon what the other one's doing. And so you see their ethics, and granted, they're young kids, but we tend to often do that even as adults. I hear people all the time, well, I'll respect that person when they start respecting me.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And on one hand, I get that. There's certainly no judgment. I'm not telling people that you just need to be kind and considerate even when someone's maybe being abusive or offensive to you. But there's real freedom in saying, this is who I am. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to have honesty and integrity. I'm going to stand up for myself, but I'm going to be this way even when someone's being dishonest themselves, right? And so I'm not, the other way where my ethics is, completely contingent upon how someone's treating me, it really makes me reactionary, right? So my sense of right and wrong, and even my well-being, is often dependent upon things I have no control over.
Okay.
But when you take that power back and say, this is who I choose to be, as much as I can, unconditionally in all situations and circumstances, it's incredibly powerful, and the impact that has on the people you lead is really profound.
So Dr. Garrett, in some of our conversations that we have off on the side, I've heard you say something about leading from the inside out. Can you tell us what that means?
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction. So thank you for remembering that and bringing that up. To lead from the inside out means that you are not starting from a place of focusing on the end result, right? You're not thinking about, this is the amount of profit I want to make, this is the success I want to have. You start internally by defining who you are first and your purpose. And so whether that's doing that on a personal level, right? So you're talking about self-leadership or leading your family. But when you understand who you are, what's important to you, you understand the impact you want to have on people. You understand what your vision is, and the vision statement, in the mission, all those things. And then you start focusing on how you're going to, get the results that you want. It's so much more powerful. So you're really starting from a place of defining internally what you're all about, your identity and purpose. I think those are the most important questions, whether it be in personal development or whether it be in business development. The companies that are really, I think, doing great and that stand the test of time, that even during times of adversity and struggle and hardship, that really are able to stay strong and have a phenomenal culture, and that they're able to rise above challenges. They do a great job of really establishing who they are, what they're all about, attracting people, right, that fit with that are in alignment with that, doing business with people that fit in alignment with that. But you got to start first going inside or going internally to define who you are, what your purpose is, what your mission statement is. And when you start from that, and then just create radical consistency with that internal kind of definition of your authentic business or authentic leadership, it's so much more powerful than starting from the outside in. Let me think about, all the outcomes I'm going to have. Let me think about goals and all these things, when I haven't clearly defined what I'm all about and what my purpose is.
That makes a lot of sense. So, Dr. Garrett, how can we develop or establish authentic leadership?
You're probably going to notice some consistent themes here about first starting by really getting clear and defining who you are, what your identity is, and understanding what your values are, understanding, what your purpose is, what your mission is, obviously what your business is. But once you start from that place, it really creates a clear structure on how to create an authentic culture. I've done a lot of research on organizations. I think I've done a phenomenal job of creating just powerful cultures, where it really creates a culture where everybody wants to rise up to meet the expectation of the mission statement or, of the culture that's created. And I know one example that I'd love to give is with Navy SEALs. With Navy SEALs, they've clearly defined that trust for them is like the overarching value and the virtue that they want to really, lay their foundation on, what their culture is all about. And because they have such radical clarity on that, they do a great job when they're recruiting possible, soldiers or SEALs to come in. So they look for character strengths that fit in alignment with that, right? Character strengths like honesty, integrity, loyalty, people that are collaborative. And so they recruit them. And then once they're in training, they create a whole bunch of exercises that are designed to really create trust, teamwork, and to rely on each other, right? And so, and they reinforce the teams that show the greatest trust and kind of the teamwork. They do a great job of kind of publicly or very clearly reinforcing that that's what they're trying to do. And the teams that show very poor collaboration and trust, they make sure to also point out. And so it creates a clear idea of hey, this is the expectation. And when you do this, you're going to get rewarded. When you do this, you're going to be course corrected. And then they tell stories. Storytelling is an important part of culture creating. And so, the motto of Navy SEALs is no man left behind. That's almost like an irrational level of trust, right? Sure. I'm willing to die for my brother or sister, right? Because that we trust each other so much, and I'll never let them down. And so it really does a great job as a recruiting tool, attracting the type of person that wants that type of connection, that wants that type of brotherhood or sisterhood. And so, you've got that, and then they tell stories about Navy SEAL teams that showed phenomenal trust, and they did heroic and patriotic things, and that does a great job also of reinforcing culture and helping people to inspire them to want to live up to that virtue and these character strengths and values. And so, and all of this does a great job of just continuing to reinforce what they're all about. And really, you can plug in the same concept, right? I think you look at Nordstrom's or something like that, and Nordstrom's is about legendary customer service. And so they know that that's what they're looking for. They've got a story that's been perpetuated for a long time in Nordstrom's about a customer that returned a tire.
Yeah,
too, right?
Yeah, we've heard it. We've heard that in business school.
And I've asked, and I think the local Nordstrom's here, I'm like, do you guys know that story? Oh yeah, it's always told in training, right? And the idea is that people then want to live up to their version of that. They want to contribute to this, myth or whatever of Nordstrom's. And so it does a great job of creating, this is the value, this is what we care about. These are the virtues that we're looking for. These are stories that reinforce that, right? We look for ways to bring in leaders that reinforce that. And then we, continue to reward and just create radical consistency with that. And then, Nordstrom's, it attracts customers that want that type, they're willing to pay extra money because they want that type of customer service, right? It attracts employees, people that want to work there because they want to be a part of that type of culture. And so it does really a phenomenal job of creating, I think, an outstanding, authentic culture where there's consistency, there's clarity of values, there's clarity in the storytelling around it, that really creates this authenticity in leadership and overall in the culture.
That completely makes sense. Thanks. Okay, Dr. Garrett, I think we might already know, but we'd like to hear it from you. So why is authentic leadership the preferred or the most desirable form of leadership? And tell us, what are the benefits of authentic leadership?
Yeah, there's a saying, and granted it's not a scientific or mathematical formula, but inner clarity equals outer results. Right? When you really, again, create this internal clarity of this is what we're all about, this is what I'm all about as a leader, and I show, incredible consistency with that, it reduces ambiguity for the people that you're leading, right? They have certainty. And decisiveness is something that's really important in leadership, right? Showing that you're a confident decision maker. When you know what you're all about, you know what you value, you know the types of decisions you want to make that are ethical for you, right? And you're making them, even regardless of the circumstances. It creates so much clarity for everybody that you're leading, and it removes ambiguity. Ambiguity and uncertainty, it tends to shut down creative problem solving, right? When people feel that they're in a situation where they don't know what's going to be reinforced, they don't feel like it's maybe consistent, or they feel like it's fair. One person gets treated one way, another person gets treated another way. It really shuts down innovation, and it really makes people feel more anxious, and they go into self-preservation mode, right? They're just doing what's best for them. But when you have consistency, and it's culture-wide, right? The leadership does a great job of applying that consistently across the board, and they're hiring people, and again, you have that great consistency. It really creates an environment where people feel safe and secure to do their very best work, to bring great ideas and creativity, to meetings and things like that. And we know that authentic leadership styles, has been consistently rated as creating the greatest happiness, greatest positive employee satisfaction. And so it really creates, and we know happy employees tend to be better employees. They tend to have less sick days, more loyalty. Again, happiness even equals greater creativity and greater production. And so I think that's a really important factor. And I have seen, I've read a lot on leadership styles. So I've seen what is the one attribute that is most important for a great leader? And I've seen different polls say different things. Sometimes they'll say positivity or optimism, right? Okay. Sometimes it'll say decisiveness or integrity. However, where I would say authenticity and authentic leadership really is the best style is because it is the best umbrella kind of leadership style. Right, you can't say that the positivity is the one attribute that you have to assign for a leader if that's not what, that particular leader is not true to who they are, right? So if they're trying to take on characteristics that maybe aren't, what lights them up, then it's going to be inauthentic, and the people he or she is leading is going to feel that. But authenticity is about being true to yourself. It's about understanding, hey, I want to have this impact, and maybe integrity is the thing that I stand on. That's the most important, virtue and character strength that I really want to bring into my leadership style. And when you're being true to yourself, because that's, your natural or the character strength that you've really developed and honed, right? That's when you're going to have the greatest impact, and you're going, your people that you're leading are going to feel that authenticity. And so when you're being authentic, literally the idea is that you're being true to yourself. Not just, again, true to yourself, but true to the highest expression of yourself. And so in addition to that, authenticity really has a great degree, it requires a great degree of self-awareness. I remember a time where I had a new employee, and I had given him a bunch of assignments and jobs to work on, and I had in my head an expectation of how many hours that was going to be for him, right? And so I asked for him to send me his time card at the end of the month, and he sent me, it was triple the number of hours that I'd anticipated. I was really upset, right? I was starting to formulate a response, this is unacceptable. But before I sent that, of course, I had paused and I did self-reflection. I said, wait a minute, what am I responsible for here? What did I do wrong, right? And so I realized I gave him I did a terrible job of creating parameters for him. I didn't set the expectations clearly. And so this is my fault. I need to own this, but I also need to take corrective action. And so I said, hey, look, this is more hours than I anticipated, but I realized I did a very poor job of setting you up for success. From now on, why don't I give you a clear time parameter of how long each of these should expect? And if you're gonna go above that, just, let me know so that we can work on that together. So, and I think authentic leadership does a great job of really self-assessing and being self-aware of what is my motive, what do I need to take ownership of, how can I best lead? So that's why authentic leadership is, in my opinion, undeniably the best leadership style.
Oh, and to that point, I'll agree with that. There are so many leaders who don't do that, but I do know a good handful of leaders who do that, and I know that their employees tend to be happier, more productive, and everything that you said. So a lot of this stuff is coming true.
Awesome.
So Dr. Garrett, how do you know as a leader if you have an authentic connection with your employees?
Yeah, I think that is a great question, so thanks for asking that. And it's important to invest in time in building the relationship and being intentional about carving out time where you're really present and you're doing a good job, I think, of listening as a leader. So asking great questions and then being able to really effectively listen, to what is going on. Having regular check-ins. I love the idea of having regular team building workshops, things like that I think are really important. But you will often feel it, and I don't mean to just make this some like intuitive, kind of sense, but if you notice that someone's productivity starts to drop off, like there should be certain signs or kind of signals that go up that are a sign to lean in and say, hey, I wonder what's going on here, and to again do that self-reflection and self-awareness to say, hey, is there something that I'm not doing? Have I not invested enough time? Is there some way in which I can be more effective in reaching out, connecting, leading this person, right? And I think, that's the power of leadership is it really shows a genuine care about the person and their productivity. And, as a leader, you succeed when your team succeeds. And
Absolutely.
So doing everything you can to reach out. But I think some of the things you can do even beforehand, before you have a relationship, is in the screening process, right, is to really make sure that you are intentional in the type of person that you're looking for, that you have real clarity again in those values. Is this person a good fit? Having worked with a bunch of leaders and business owners, it's really consistent that when you're having conflict with an employee and you're having trouble, almost always there is a values conflict. And so, that ideally could have been avoided, by just some effective screening at the beginning. I also think it's really important to know what are the character strengths that would best be suited for this particular job, right? We know that salespeople that tend to be optimistic, right, tend to outsell non-optimistic salespeople. So, you obviously could go more granular than that and really defining, but the more you get clear on saying, these are the character strengths I'm looking for, and then how do I assess whether or not this person is a good match for that, it really is going to help make sure that you are putting in the work in advance. So it's more likely then that when the person gets there, that the expectations were super clear, it was clearly aligned with what this person cares about, what their strengths are. And so I think that's going to enhance or enrich the authentic connection, before you are actually leading that person. And then once that you're doing that, I know there's assessments like 360s, there's various things that you can do that I think, probably are not always super fun sometimes for leaders to do, but I think that information can be really valuable, is to be able to get that feedback and, have the ability to get constructive criticism on, what am I doing really well? Where can I improve? When a leader shows that willingness to really, take constructive criticism and then to incorporate it and implement it, that is so powerful for the people that they're leading then to do the same, right? You're setting the example that you're wanting to see in them. So I think that's huge. And then again, that communication, I think it's really clear what we call virtuous organizations, which is that there is a clear, consistent, positive to negative interaction, right? There's more moments of gratitude, more moments of creativity, more moments of fun than there are negative interactions. And I think there's actually a mathematical formula 3-to-1 is the minimum ratio of positive to negative to have like a healthy, productive work culture. 6-to-1, and you see the absolute best work. You see people thriving, doing their absolute best work.
Okay.
You go, they call it the Losada line, is the 3-to-1.
Okay.
You go below that, and you'll start to see dips in productivity. You're more likely to see sick days, starting to pile up. You're likely to see just different, you're not operating on all cylinders. So.
Makes sense. So Dr. Garrett, if you realize that you don't have an authentic connection with your employees, what can we do to correct it?
Yeah, I think, talked a little bit before just about the need to have that investment of time, that communication, right? So I think it's important to lean into, if you recognize that in some way, right, that relationship, there's just some tension, there's, not real clarity, there's not open communication, to lean into it. I know, and a lot of these principles are true whether you're leading in the workplace, whether you're leading at home, but it can be uncomfortable to do those things. And so It's very easy to want to avoid having those conversations, right? You feel the discomfort of it and just push it off, right? But by not dealing with the discomfort or not being able to address it, we know the problem doesn't go away. And in fact, it often just continues to compound. It tends to grow. And so I think it's important that as soon as you recognize that there might be a lack of, kind of an authentic connection, I think it's important to try and address it as quickly as possible. So the quicker you get at being able to do that, the easier it is to course correct. And I think the important thing is to have an honest conversation, right? I mean, that's where the honesty part of authenticity comes in, is to acknowledge, like, hey, here's what I'm seeing and here's what I'm feeling as a leader. And wondering, I'd love to check in with you and hear what you're thinking and feeling, and to really create an open space where you're, ideally telling them what they're doing well, but maybe acknowledging too kind of the areas where you're giving them some constructive feedback, and then to invite, for them to give you similar feedback. It can be an incredibly therapeutic experience, even in the workplace, to have just this really open, honest, and vulnerable, kind of connection. And it doesn't necessarily need to have Kleenex or anything like that.
Right.
But, I think it's important to acknowledge if there's something that you recognize you could have done better, or to own if they're giving you feedback, even if it's something that they're telling you something that you don't want to hear, or maybe you don't agree with it, but doing your best to try and understand, things from their perspective, to try and show empathy, right? Really understanding, what it is they might be experiencing and what they're going through. And sometimes that might require checking in on what's going on with them outside of the workplace, right? Oftentimes we are bringing into, our relationships and into the workplace, the things that we are struggling with, either internally or at home. And so, it might require, some willingness to provide resources. If, as a leader, you're not really wanting to get too much into their home life, at least making sure that they know that there's resources available, that they can have support, that they can have help on how to address those things, which again, really shows that extra level of care, for your employees, that you really care not about them just as production machines or profit machines, but you care about them as people, that you really want to see them happy and thriving.
So, Dr. Garrett, how can a leader facilitate or foster authentic interaction within the work culture or environment?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of really simple things that you can do that really help to foster that. I remember Herb Keller, I'm not sure if I got his name right, but he was the CEO of Southwest Airlines. And I think he's often held up as one of the greatest CEOs of all time. And he did a great job of really connecting with all of his employees. He was known sometimes to go down on the baggage line and to help out, right, with the employees and grab bags and put them on the carrier and on the conveyor line, or I'm not even sure if I'm using those terms right, but and so he really showed that there was no job within Southwest Airlines that was beneath him, and that he took the time to get to know on some level, right? You can't spend an infinite or indefinite period of time with everyone, but he did little things like remembering their names. I know my grandpa, who had a large, business. It's one of the things that he did, and I got a chance to have a front row seat to this. He was phenomenal at remembering people's names and remembering details about their life. So when they'd come up to him, and he had thousands of employees that worked for him, And so they'd say, Carl, it's good to see you. He would know their name, he would remember their spouse's name, he would do something like that. And you could see, because I'd sit there and you could see how special and valued they felt, that he took the time to really know who they were and to remember details about their life. And so there's things like that you can do that just, are relatively simple things, but they have profound impact, right? It shows that you really value them again. And it shows that there's an ethic of that, social good that comes with authenticity, that you're really committed to trying to bring social good, not just into the business impact you have on your community and the clients you work with, but consistently with the people that you lead within your organization as well.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Garrett, thank you so much for all that info. I learned a lot, and I'm really hoping to implement some of those things, into my leadership. But before we go, if there was anything that you would want our viewers to take away from our session, what would that be?
Yeah, I think that authenticity and authentic leadership is a skill. So it is something that you can work on. It's something you can develop. It's something you can practice and refine and continue to get better at. And if it's not clear by now, I am absolutely convinced that developing that skill and developing that type of leadership style is the return on investment is the greatest return on investment that you can possibly have. When you really create an authentic environment, you're going to elevate everyone that you lead, right? The influence that you have on people is subtle. Like, you are leading by the person you are, right? So you just have this impact on people. Being in their presence, people naturally want to elevate and rise up and do their best work. And so taking the time to really get clear and establish an authentic identity, your authentic purpose, and then bringing that into the workplace is, I believe, undeniably the most powerful thing that you can do to just enhance the overall culture. And if you enhance the culture, you're going to just create a better business.
Great. Oh my gosh, Dr. Garrett, once again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I'm pretty sure our viewers appreciate it too. Thank you once again.
Awesome, Albert. This was a lot of fun, so thanks for having this conversation with me.
Hey everyone, I hope all you leaders and soon-to-be leaders got some value out of this. And if you did, please consider hitting the like button so this can be shared with a lot more people. If you guys want to know more about us at Clever Key Consulting Group or Dr. Garrett at AG Thrive, we're going to include our website information in the video description below. And if you guys have any topics you want us to explore, please comment below so we can deliver what you guys want. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.